The biblical story of Abraham and his forgotten son, Ishmael, is a tale of faith, promise, and complex family dynamics. It touches upon God's covenant with Abraham, the birth of Ishmael, and the ultimate fulfillment of God's promise through Isaac. Abraham, originally named Abram, was chosen by God to be the father of many nations. God called Abraham to leave his homeland and travel to a new land that he would show him. In Genesis 12:2, God promised Abraham, "I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing." Despite this promise, Abraham and his wife, Sarah, originally Sarai, were childless for many years. Sarah was barren, and as the years went by, their faith was tested. In Genesis 15, Abraham questioned how God's promise could be fulfilled since he had no children, and his only heir was his servant, Eliezer. God reassured Abraham that his own offspring would inherit the promise. As Sarah grew older, she became desperate for a child. In Genesis 16, Sarah suggested that Abraham take her Egyptian maidservant, Hagar, as a second wife to bear a child on her behalf. In that cultural context, this practice was not uncommon, but it was not part of God's original plan for Abraham's family. Abraham and Hagar's journey into the wilderness. Abraham leading Hagar and his son Ishmael into the vast, desert wilderness, a scene of sorrow and obedience. The barren desert landscape under a hot sun contrasts with Abraham's solemn expression. Ishmael as a young boy. A young Ishmael standing by his mother Hagar in the desert, his face full of curiosity and strength. Hagar, a loving and protective mother, is guiding him. The wilderness symbolizes their journey into the unknown. In obedience, Abraham sent Hagar and Ishmael into the desert with some food and water. When the provisions ran out, Hagar feared that Ishmael would die, and she wept at a distance from him. However, God heard Ishmael's cries, and the angel of God appeared to Hagar, saying in Genesis 21:17-18, "Do not be afraid, God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Lift the boy up and take him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation." Abraham looking back. Abraham standing at a distance, looking back towards Hagar and Ishmael as he leaves them. His face shows the conflict of a father's love and the command of God. The desolate landscape amplifies the emotion of separation. The well of Zamzam. Ishmael and Hagar discovering water in the wilderness, symbolized by the well of Zamzam. The scene can show Hagar kneeling in gratitude, with Ishmael looking on in amazement as water flows out of the ground. God's promise to Ishmael. A vision of God's voice blessing Ishmael and promising to make him the father of a great nation. Ishmael stands in the middle of the desert, with the vast sky above, as divine light shines down upon him, symbolizing his future. The growth of Ishmael's nation. A depiction of Ishmael as an adult, with his people gathered around him in the desert. Tents, camels, and an oasis reflect the fulfillment of God's promise to multiply Ishmael's descendants into a strong and thriving nation. Abraham's reunion with Ishmael. A powerful moment of Abraham and Ishmael meeting again years later. The landscape reflects peace and resolution, with the father and son embracing under the vast desert sky. God opened Hagar's eyes to a nearby well of water, and they were saved. Ishmael grew up in the wilderness and became an expert archer. He eventually settled in the desert of Paran and married an Egyptian woman. True to God's promise, Ishmael became the father of 12 sons.